me, wish me luck, clean myself up.
Tim would have held your hand.
Tim would have held my hand.
Aw,
Yeah.
see, look at that. Love here on The Jump set. Welcome to The Jump. I'm Rachel Nichols, joined by NBA champ, four-time NBA finalist. I'm going to keep saying it, Richard Jefferson, and the man who
Wins it all.
7 rings.
Win it all.
Known for hitting the big shots, Mr. Robert Horry. Coming up, guys, we're going to talk about Andre Drummond. All signs point to him making his Lakers debut tonight. What are reasonable expectations for him in his first game in nearly 7 weeks? Ramona Shelburne is going to join us to discuss that. But first, so who are the Denver Nuggets? Are they really the 5th best team in the West, like the standing show? Or with an MVP candidate in Nikola Jokic and some splashy trade deadline moves, are they legit title contenders? And by the way, I don't mean title contenders in some in the conversation way. I mean, can you actually see them knocking off, say, the Nets or the defending champion Lakers? Even when you look backward to the bubble, it's hard to know exactly who the Nuggets were then. Were they the team that made it to the conference finals, one of the last 2 standing in a loaded West? Or were they the team that last year came within, a quarter inch of being knocked out of the first round by that Mike Conley shot that just rimmed out at the Game 7 buzzer? You know, normally we can find out who a team is with some measuring stick games. You know, those big matchups over the course of a season that let us get a sense of the league's hierarchy. Except right now, with all of this season's injury and COVID absences, those games are hard to come by. Take last night when the Nuggets welcomed the Sixers to town. And yeah, Philadelphia sits atop the East standings. And in theory, this should have been a game for Denver to really see what it was made of. Except that Joel Embiid was still out, which meant no MVP showdown between him and Jokic, or really not much of a showdown anywhere at all. The Nuggets led 44-22 after just the first quarter. And while the game would get closer in spots, it was never really close. Afterward, Doc Rivers gave this evaluation of his team.
There's so many areas where we were bad. For me to try to point out one would be unfair to the other bad areas we were. So we just had an awful game. We didn't have many of those, but tonight was one of them. The positive is that the clock finally expired. That was one very good positive.
Love Doc. All right, things were much more chippy in the Denver locker room, especially around Jamal Murray, who seemed to feed off the Nuggets' first game with fans in the stands to deliver a really fun 30-point night. Murray showed off the whole package, some beautiful passes, some eye-popping ball handling, series of step-back threes. But of course, we don't really know what it means. Yeah, it's encouraging that Murray has seemed to emerge from his early season funk, but which version of him will Denver get in the playoffs? And what about Michael Porter Jr., who had a 27-point night himself? Take a look at MPJ in his last 20 games. He's averaged 19 points, 8.8 rebounds, while shooting 57% from the field, 51% from deep. Will he continue to grow into the players the Nuggets projected he'd be? And what about Aaron Gordon, who, by the way, switched his number to 50 after the trade to Denver? In honor of the 50s he thought he should have received for his 2 second-place finishes
I love it.
in the All-Star Dunk Contest. That is next-level petty, Aaron, and we here at The Jump,
love it.
we applaud here.
Bear down.
Gordon hasn't played enough with the Nuggets yet to know what he can truly be with that team. The assumption is he'll particularly help defensively, as will JaVale McGee, although the Nuggets are still the worst in the league when it comes to defending the rim, which could certainly be a problem come this postseason. All in all, the Nuggets have more questions than answers, and who knows? Maybe when it's all over, they'll have the answer. But to get there, they will have to figure out exactly who they are. And in this no practice time, weird scheduled track meet of a season, that is a whole lot easier said than done. All right, it's time to bring back one of our new segments. Can I have a word, friends? So the Nuggets made some nice roster tweaks at the deadline, added Aaron Gordon, as I said, JaVale McGee. So this is a team that is looking to be right there at the end of the season. Friends, countrymen, Romans, Robert, can I have a word for what the new look Nuggets, what their chances are in the West?
It's been upgraded.
Okay.
It was kind of bleak there for a minute, but they've been upgraded from maybe a 7 to 8 seed to maybe a 4 or 5 seed. It's still not that great because you still have Jamal Murray trying to find his way. I know everybody's looking at Aaron Gordon to be the savior, but I still don't think he's that defensive presence like they used to have with Grant. So he's an energy guy, but he doesn't have that defensive presence. You just said it. They allow a lot of points in the paint, and we know King James scores a lot of points in the paint. AD scores a lot of points, and that's who you're trying to defend against, and they don't have it yet.
All right. I said respectable. right? When we're talking
You
about
just wanted the word respectable next to your face on TV.
Probably, but everyone knows that this is some joke thing if there's like a screenshot of this. But no, I just think to your point, like the areas that they were deficient were, athletic wing, they needed another big. But I think their chances are respectable. I could see them upsetting somebody. I could see them making a similar run. But are they a championship team? They still have to go out and change some of their effort. Because you just mentioned just the Lakers. We're not even talking about, like, let's say the Utah, and you got Rudy Gobert and you got Donovan Mitchell in the paint. Then you go and you look at, if you go to the East, you got Joel Embiid, then you got Giannis. Like, you have to protect the paint. And if you are one of the worst teams at protecting the paint, there's just too many great teams down the line that are great at attacking that it's going to be a problem, but their chances are respectable.
All right. And by the way, I want to shout out Katie Bummer for our beautiful signs. Lovely.
I did not write this.
I want to move on to your handwriting is nowhere near that good. No. I want to move on to the Phoenix Suns, who took care of business at home last night against the Hawks. Most people expected to see the Suns improve this season, but guys, they've done more than that, as they are currently second in the standings in a stacked Western Conference. The Suns have won 24 of their last 30 games, have not lost consecutive games since January. They are leading the league in field goal percentage in that span. So, Richard, can I have a word for the Suns winning 24 out of 30?
The word is, and again, we're talking about names in front of our faces, but premature.
Okay.
The reason why I think it's premature is because when you look at, I appreciate the chuckle. The reason why is because you look at their team and the way it's constructed. Like, Utah fans and Utah people are critical that we're not giving them enough credit. And it's like, well, you haven't proven anything. And I think Utah has proven a lot more than this Suns team has over the past few years of growth. And so I just think that with only Chris Paul and Jay Crowder really having playoff experience, it's premature for us to jump on that bandwagon. But they are great. It's great to see the Suns relevant. It's in my hometown, so I'm excited. But it's premature to get really excited about them.
I thought you'd be extremely excited, but I really couldn't come up with one word, and I came up with CP3.
I mean, that's always a good
That's all
fallback.
you need right there.
Is that a word?
It is today.
He has 7 rings. If he says it's a word, we accept that it's a word. That's how this show works.
This is what you have to understand. You need a type of guy like CP3 to get you in order. This is a leader. He is a true leader on this basketball court. We all know the Phoenix Suns had all type of talent. They can shoot the ball, but they need someone to bring them together. You need that glue. CP3 has always been that guy to bring a team together. Lob City. James Harden over there in Houston. If he went in towards pulled his hamstring, he could have been in the finals. There's so many things that get disrespected by CP3. At the end of the day, this guy is a leader. He knows how to get everyone in that locker room on board. So CP3.
Look, his effect on bigs in particular, the way he's improved DeAndre Ayton, even in ways that don't show up in the stat sheet, that's a pick that the Suns made over Luka Doncic, right? So you want to maximize him as much as you can. Maybe he will not be a Luka-level player, but it is important that you take a guy who was a number 1 pick and make him better, and Chris Paul can do that, and that has been along with Devin Booker,
And again, I know so many times we focus on the Luka thing, which is correct because he looks like a generational player, but it's because the Kings had De'Aaron Fox, who was close to being an All-Star, was in the All-Star conversation, and the Phoenix Suns had Devin Booker, who has been an All-Star the last 2 years.
You don't think Luka and Book would have been?
I'm not saying that they would have, but it's like in hindsight, sometimes when you look at it, not drafting Michael Jordan, you had Clyde Drexler. Like, you understand why these moves are made. You're trying to address position versus like just pure talent.
Well, I would argue in the positionless era now, it is different than in the Jordan era. And I'm not, by the way, I'm not trying to turn this into an Ayton versus Luka thing. My point is, you want to you picked Ayton. Ayton is the one who is there. He is a good young man. He is a player who
can do something. Someone got to do something.
Kawhi can close games. We saw him do that in Toronto. We've seen him in. Well,
now again, let's also say this really quickly about Kawhi.
Yes.
When he showed up in San Antonio, the culture was already established, and he fed into that and was a monster. When he showed up in Toronto, the culture was already established, and he showed out. Now he's the one that's creating the culture with the Clippers.
I'm excited to see what Rondo does to that clutch time offense. Make advantages. Reggie Jackson deciding to take on the 7-foot Mo Bamba at the rim, and he gets turned away because Bamba has a 7'10" wingspan, people. I mean, I don't know, Richard, you like the confidence there from Jackson?
No, I don't like the confidence. I don't like the confidence. Like, I respect it, but like that's not the one that you want to try, and it wasn't close.
7 foot.
The fact that he opened his body up so he could block it.
Yeah, you got to go forearm.
You
got to go forearm to chest. You got to go forearm and then here. But, what do I know?
Do you want to climb on the table?
No. We'll demonstrate in the Podbuster next.
Yeah, there we go. Look at you knowing a television term. I'm so proud.
Oh,
All right.
he watched this shocking watch.
Miss fouls. Ben Simmons sets up a screen. Campazzo just runs right through it. This guy, he loves contact, Richard. He loves contact, this guy.
Yes, he does. Look at that. Eat that. Yeah, and then looked at him, too.
I don't think he realized he looked at him, stared him down like that,
looked
man.
at him. It's
That
okay.
could get you in trouble, young fella. If you
Oh, wow. I remember seeing that one. Like, what are you doing? Like,
Right?
what were you doing there?
He
No,
likes-
Campazzo, I like that because Ben Simmons is a big dude. He's 6'10", 255.
Yes.
So for you to decleat him, is pretty impressive.
Campazzo, he's crazy fun player to watch. Like all of this stuff, the linebacker stuff, it's great. He's really fun. Great passing. All right, Make Fury. Game out of reach here, but Russ still throwing down angry tomahawks. Rob, I don't know where he ranks in terms of angry dunkers for you.
Number one for me. If you go with Duncanstein, Darryl Dawkins, and all these guys, but this guy, when he attacks the rim, you're like, man, who are you mad at? Why are you doing this? Like,
Everybody.
Like the guy underneath is just, no, just get out of the way, man. Just get out of the way because this guy, when he has that takeoff platform right here, is just, woo.
Where that's what we're talking about, that 1-2. And there is nobody that size that is more aggressive. You would even probably go 2 or 3 more inches up.
And then you're having a conversation with him. You're supposed to run out the arena when you get dunked on like this. You don't have a conversation with him like this. What's wrong with him? Guys nowadays are too friendly, man.
If we start saying that, everyone starts complaining. So I just stay away from that conversation and just say, yeah, it was sad. That was just sad.
Let's run it back to Russell Westbrook's angriest dunks ever. You know this is going to be good. Number 5, 2012. Russ against the Warriors. Take a look at this.
Uh-oh.
You know when
We
the
got the music behind it.
music,
When you hear the music behind it, okay.
Stare down, though. How you gonna see a guy coming at you like this, stare you in your eyes and just raise up?
Robbie
what do you-
Soul.
Dog. And what's so crazy, this is what's so crazy about him. Him and Kyrie are like an inch apart.
And
they're
yeah.
the same like height and just looking like the way they play and
This
dominate
is
differently.
2014, Russ in Detroit.
There we go.
Like,
Are we gonna show the lob?
Gives the rest of the team too. Look at these guys on the bench going nuts.
what? As a big, you guys, I'm mad at you, man. Stop him.
Yeah.
They can pick it up early. You coming into my area,
Josh
dunking
Smith
on
was
me.
still in the
Come
league.
on.
2014 playoffs in San Antonio. This is number 3.
Look at that.
It's so good.
You just don't, again, there's just not that many guys that dunk that hard, that aggressively. That's on top of Kawhi.
And the San Antonio fans love their team beyond no other. And look, they're respecting this dunk like, wow.
Number 2, 2017 tries to rip the rim down versus the Bucks.
He got technical in that one, and it's okay. It's okay to get a
it's that
technical.
tech.
Take that tech.
Some dunks you have to take a take. You gotta have a little nasty with
Yep.
you.
Let him know.
Let's
Try
try
it
it.
again. Try it again, I'll do it again.
Yep.
That's what you say. Try that block again, I'll do it again. Oh, poor. Just.
I'm glad he didn't injure that small child
Do
baseline.
we have tombstones built for all these guys?
Number 1,
Love it.
This is my favorite one. This is my
2013,
favorite one.
KD.
That lob.
Woo.
See, I still like the ones where he attack on his own, cross the one up.
Just
go
look at
for-
this. Look at how.
I know he has the duck.
Look at this.
Kiss the ring.
Look at that. God.
Richard, I like when you're the one sort of, geeking out over dunks since we know what kind of dunker you
Well,
are.
but look, because you understand the timing, the athleticism, and even then, like I was a big just flush guy. Like, don't touch the rim, don't hang on the rim. But he just goes and tries to rip the rim off, and he does a pretty good job of it.
And there
Very
you go.
good.
I want to switch gears slightly. According to our own Adrian Wojnarowski, Boogie Cousins and the Clippers are discussing a possible 10-day contract. Now, no decision is expected for a few days, however, Richard. Do you like the idea of Boogie going to the Clips? Remember, he played with a lot. He played with Rondo in Sacramento and New Orleans, right? Played with all
Yeah,
of
no,
them.
I like the idea of it mainly because you need size. All of a sudden, randomly, size has started becoming a premium in this
Return to
league.
the big man.
All of a sudden, it was a bunch of guards, but now you look around this league and you're going to have to play Jokic. You're going to have to play LeBron, AD, and Drummond.
Yep.
You're going to have to play against Lopez and Giannis. You're going to have to play against Embiid if you want to win a championship. So now, surprisingly, size has become a premium. I think as much as I love Zubac, I like Serge. I think adding more bodies is always a positive thing.
Well, we know Serge has kind of drifted outside the three-point line.
Yeah.
You need someone in that paint. And Boogie is that guy that can get you points in the paint, offensive rebounds, those second chance points that you need. But we know this guy also brings a little nasty when he comes to this game. So if you come to that paint, you're going to be getting up off the floor, old school style.
Well, I mean, look, you were talking just earlier about the Clippers and sort of in the clutch and trying to find who they are as a team. You bring Rajon Rondo in. We know what he brings sort of locker room wise and again, nasty wise and all of that stuff. You bring a guy like Boogie Cousins in if he's able to stick. You're kind of changing a little bit of the personality of that team again in a way that hopefully sets you up for a championship.
Yeah, and Zubac is one of the most underrated bigs in this league, right? He can shoot free throws well. Great hands, skilled, doesn't say much, but then all of a sudden you look up at the end of the day and he's got 12 and 10. He's got 15 and 9. Like, he just is a great complementary big. But I just think in the more bigs you have, especially ones that have like some presence, I think it's never a bad thing.
I also think that Zubac needs to learn how to foul hard. When you're that big, you need to foul hard and make people scared of you. Nobody's scared of Zubac when you go to the hole. And that's one thing about Boogie. He brings some fear. You're going to think about going to the hole before you go.
And they don't need him. It's just like a lot of these guys we've seen move around on the buyout market recently, Blake Griffin, LaMarcus Aldridge. They don't need these guys to be in their like career peak all-star form. You just need to bring a little something to help add to the mix. We'll see if he's able to stick in LA. All right, coming up after the break, Ramona Shelburne is going to join us. We will preview Andre Drummond's big debut with the Lakers, the other Staples Center tenant. Whole lot better. Andre Drummond expected to make his Lakers debut against the Bucks. Lakers, of course, currently 4th in the West, 5 games ahead of that play-in scenario, which is really the line for them, Ramona, until they get AD and LeBron back. What are your expectations for Drummond's debut tonight?
Well, I think he's going to play a lot, Rach. I think he's going to be effective because he's going to be excited to be out there for the first time in a couple of months here. They're excited about him. He had a good practice. He's in shape. So I know he hasn't been playing, but he's in shape and he's ready to go. He's a little rusty. He's going to have to get back that touch around the rim, and he's going to have to get that touch back out there. But he's excited to be out there. I think the bigger question for me is just chemistry-wise. Like, what does this do to Marc Gasol? I mean, that's a proud guy out there who's giving up a starting spot here because this is what they needed to do to get Andre Drummond. And it's, Marc Gasol goes to the bench now. And he has not had a great year for the Lakers by his standards, by their standards. He's coming back from a bout of COVID. That was tough for him. But this is not what he signed up for in LA. And Frank Vogel's got a job on his hands of managing that.
What do you think, Robert, of that chemistry issue? And we know that Mark is, he's normally a good get-along kind of guy, but he's a guy who's also, done a lot of things in this league.
Yeah, it gets to a point in the league where you understand your role. And as a player, you want what's best for the team. And Mark's that type of guy. He knows what's best for this team is for him to step aside. He's not playing well. He's still not in shape from that COVID episode. So hopefully, this will give him time to really focus on his body. This is time where he can go get extra conditioning to be ready because you're going to need Marc Gasol. You're going to need his outside presence because we know LeBron loves playing with him. He loves his ability to see the game because he always talks about his IQ. So with him on the floor, he makes the people, LeBron and AD, much better.
If this season in particular, and especially this moment in the season has taught us anything, look at all the injuries to the top players.
Right.
Look at the injuries to, you've seen it with Joel Embiid, LeBron and AD and Steph being out. You've seen it so much. So you need guys, you need bodies. Now, if you allow Mark to relax and get himself back into shape, you're going to get an opportunity to play. This has happened to every player that I've ever played with that understands roles and what your opportunities are. Some days you'll be in the lineup, some days you won't. If you look at last year in the postseason, Dwight and certain guys played in certain series, they didn't play another series. So it's all about your skill set and what you bring. The worst thing that Marc Gasol could do is be upset, be frustrated, allow himself to get out of shape, but he's a professional. This is what he's going to do. And I think he probably saw this coming. He's had conversations before Drummond signed. He was like, hey, what's going on? And it's like, look, I want what's best for the team. Are you okay with that? Should we waive you, allow you to go someplace else if you're going to be upset? That wasn't a case, so I believe that he's on board. And when we look at Andre Drummond, Ramona, obviously the Lakers went after him pretty hard, didn't get the trade going for Kyle Lowry that they were interested in. Can you take us behind the scenes at all? How did they pitch him and how did he end up picking there? Because, he had other places that he could have gone.
Look, this is a showcase for him. He is a rental. And I know he said, I hope it's for longer than this year. But if you know how the salary cap works and the hard cap works, unless he wants to play for a vet minimum next year, which he is worth a lot more than a vet minimum, or even that $9 million exception that all those teams have. I mean, he's worth a lot more than that. So this is an audition for him to show what he can do on a winning team. He has not been in a situation like this before in his NBA career. I think he's really happy to be here, really excited. And he turned down roles with teams that have more money to pay him in the offseason to be in Los Angeles. And the way the Lakers got him, they essentially said, you're going to be our starting center. You're going to play a lot of minutes. You're going to be able to showcase yourself in a winning situation. And he had to kind of look within himself and say, do I care more about the money? Do I care more about establishing myself in a place where maybe they could re-sign me, where they have the money to do that? Or do I care more about putting myself on a championship team, contending for a title like he never has before? And does that establish your value more, especially if he's going to be starting and playing a lot of minutes?
He asked himself, do I want to spend part of the winter in Los Angeles after spending winters in Cleveland and Detroit? I mean, these are the questions that go through a man's mind. Let's talk about the Celtics. They entered tonight's game against the Mavs, 7th in the East. They're still a game below 500, 25 games left in the season. Jason Tatum asked on Stephen A's World about Brad Stevens' responsibility in all this. Here's what he had to say.
From our standpoint and in that locker room, it's not his job per se to, I feel like, get us riled up, those games where we come out kind of slow. We're all professionals. We all been playing basketball for a long time. His job is to have us prepared. And, you really can't coach energy, in those days when, in those games where we didn't have this start and we dug ourselves a hole and had to try to come back. We got to take ownership. We got to, do better in that aspect.
So Jason Tatum putting some of that on himself. But Robert, where are you on the coach versus anyone else for the Celtics struggles right now?
And coaches get blamed for so many things in this league, and sometimes they should, but in this case, he shouldn't be blamed at all because they had COVID cases. They had a lot of injuries. You had Smart out when your energy guys, and that's the key to a team. If you don't have your energy guy, then you're going to go out there and you're going to play like a Desical. You have these things. And think about it. Tatum got COVID, and he was going through about 6 weeks where he said, I'm just not in shape.
Still, he says he still doesn't have all his win back.
And that's the whole thing. And the only player on this team that's really been consistent is Jaylen Brown, and he's their go-to guy that's been durable and a key guy for them. And then they had trades. It's so many things that happened this season. You can go on and on, but you cannot blame the coach because he's a hell of a coach.
Yeah, no, he's a hell of a coach, and this is my issue. You look at Greg Popovich with San Antonio for the last 20 years. Every year they weren't a 1 seed. Every year they weren't a 2 seed. We were the 7 seed and we beat the 2 seed. You're going to have years where they're great, years where they're not. You can't sit here and blame the coach. And look, ultimately, this team doesn't have championship talent. They have 2 studs, they have 2 stars, and they have other good talent around them. What would they do for Al Horford?
Haven't they been in the Eastern Conference Finals 3 of the last 4 years?
Well, but this is what I'm saying. Right? But I don't believe that this team's talent stacks up with the other team.
He didn't go to college.
No. This award for his efforts to advance social justice, create opportunities for Indigenous young people in his native Australia. The NBA and Kaiser Permanente are going to donate $10,000 on Patty's behalf to the Indigenous Basketball Australia organization. And Patty met virtually with a youth from IBA to accept the award. Richard, you're a former Spur. Good guy, right? Doing good things.
Yeah, love it.
Absolutely. Welcome back to The Jump. I'm Rachel Nichols, still joined by Ramona Shelburne, Richard Jefferson, and another former Spur, Robert Horry. Ramona, what is the latest on Joel Embiid? He's been out, of course, since March 12th with a bone bruise on his left knee.
Well, there's some debate within the Sixers about when he should come back, but he is ready to go. Joel Embiid, if it was not a COVID year, if he didn't have to fly private, he might even be playing tomorrow night in Cleveland. But there's some question. Is Saturday the right day for him to come back? He's going to be they have a game against the Timberwolves at home, just the first game back after getting back from a long road trip. I asked Doc Rivers about this yesterday, and he said, look, he's ready to go. He looks good. He feels good. But the issue for them is they want him to come back and stay back. They don't want him to come back for one game and then sit out a game. He said, if you come back for one game and then you're out again, that means you're not ready. So the final call on Joel Embiid playing potentially as soon as Saturday will be made based on whether he thinks he can stay back.
Well, Richard, it's not a surprise that Embiid himself is raring to go. If he is able to get back to action on Saturday, what does that do to the MVP race?
Well, I think it brings the MVP race back to where it should be, right? You want guys to be healthy. My thing is that with Jokic, I watched Jokic. I called the game against New Orleans where Zion went for 39 and missed 2 shots. And it was like Jokic was the best player on the floor. His game was moving so slow for him. And he could be the MVP, but he would also be the MVP because the 1 and 2 guys got hurt in the third part of the season. So I think getting the MVP race and getting these guys back healthy and really seeing who the best player in the game is this year is important.
It's very important, but, there's a guy in Brooklyn.
I was going to say.
Is saying, what about me? Even though he left Houston, James Harden, in a bad way, the numbers he's putting up without KD, without Kyrie, you got to put him in the conversation. I know we want to say, okay, he doesn't play defense and all this stuff, but what he's doing
playing defense in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
If you watch those games, James Harden is playing defense.
Yeah, he's playing defense.
I'm not saying he's a lockdown defender, Richard, making faces over there. But
He's giving the maximum effort. He's doing the best he can do defensively. And that's what you want.
There.
James Harden right now, you look at his game, you look at his step back, you look at his assist, you look what he's doing, 40 points anytime he wants to. He's a walking bucket. So
James Harden is doing what James Harden has always done. That's my thing. James Harden is he's always been one of the most dominant scorers.
But the thing is, he's doing that when people are hurt. And so that hurts you when people are hurt because LeBron James was my MVP. If he comes back soon, he still is. But if he stays out a little bit longer, that hurts him.
Agreed.
Yeah, and look, with James Harden, the consistency that he's played with in Brooklyn, we saw what happened with the Clippers when so many guys were in and out of the lineup. Well, that's not happening necessarily with the Nets because James Harden is there every day.
Yeah, he's consistent all the time.
He's not
time.
All
he's a monster.
His whole career.
Right? And look, I will say this about James Harden and the Houston thing. We give players only one route to get out of a team situation. A team can trade them anytime. We give players one playbook, and he played the playbook. That is the way the NBA is set up right now. So,
I did that too, so
well,
I can't even complain.
Well,
I'm
that's
not even complaining about
right?
it.
I mean, but that's like what we have set up the paradigm that way for players. So I don't know if penalizing him for doing the thing that the system is set up for him to do makes sense. We will continue to discuss that, of course, as we go on.
You would vote for Harden right now?
You just stop. Every day, Richard's on the show.
Have a vote.
Who are you voting for?
I don't have a vote, so my opinion doesn't matter. I'm just asking. I'm asking the voters. Listen, we're trying to do a poll of of current voters.
I am an excellent voter, Richard, because I don't make decisions 2/3 of the way through the season. Thank you very much. I will say with Joel Embiid, the fact that the Sixers have been playing well in his absence, does that help his case, hurt his case? What
hurts his case? It hurts his case because you look at the other talent that they have on that team. You got Ben Simmons, you got Tobias Harris, you have a ton of high-level talent there. So you can see that, yes, while him being there makes them a favorite in the Eastern Conference, but if he's not there, they're still a high-level playoff team.
But look at his last game without him.
But that's just one game. If we're looking at a larger sample size.
But here's the thing. He's still, on that team, the best player on that team. The Sixers are in the East. The East is not as good as it used to be. So that's not saying much if the East is winning when he's not on the team. So I'm not going to buy into that because you still need a guy like Joel Embiid. He's a type of guy that can do so many different things for you.
Who's your MVP right now, today, if the voting?
I just said LeBron, man. Listen
up. You just said that if he stays out, it's going to hurt him.
You said today.
You asked him a question.
Wait, did I ask that?
Yes.
When did I say that?
Just now.
Yes,
just
now.
right
I didn't
now.
say that. That's not true.
10
Go to the
seconds
tape. Can we
ago.
get the review?
Yeah.
Can we get a
Ramona
review?
Shelburne is also a voter. And guess what? She is also not making decisions 2/3 of the way through the season. Richard, no matter how much you try to pin either one of us down, the entire season
slippery.
is the entire season.
You're not going to be pinned down.
Nope, not going to happen. Ramona, thank you so much for joining us. Up next, guys, speaking of James Harden, he faces the Rockets tonight. How should we expect him to play against his plan over the next couple of weeks? And talking about the Pelicans, and you said, why aren't they getting criticized? Well, they were criticized, guys, because J.J. Redick, speaking out on his surprising trade to Dallas, this was in his most recent podcast, the 15-year NBA vet, rumored to be bought out, but was ultimately traded to the Mavs for James Johnson, among others. He stated on his podcast that he made a trade request to go to the Nets to be close to his family.
So did everybody
due to
else.
COVID back in November. His family does still live in Brooklyn. According to Redick, David Griffin stated he would trade JJ to a desirable situation where he could be closer to his family, give him some time. Of course, Dallas is not close to Brooklyn. Richard, what are your thoughts on Redick's request?
Let me say this. I like JJ. So, JJ, when you hear this from me, I get it. You wanted more time, and I know your family lives in Brooklyn and lives out on the East Coast, but really, you thought they were going to send you to the Nets like everybody else. On top of it, JJ, you know this. No one cares. I respect you. No one cares about your feelings. They don't care about any of our feelings.
Well, that's what
when
Jimmy
you're playing.
Butler always says.
They don't care.
How do you feel about that? He said no one cares.
No one cares. So you know it. You know it, JJ. It's okay with you voicing it.
But my whole thing, JJ, what have you done for them, though? That's what you get boils down to. Have you won a championship for this organization? No. Have you been out an MVP for this organization? No. Have you been an all-star? No. You don't get no say where you go. You go where they send you, what's best for the organization, not what's best for you. And that's what's wrong with a lot of these guys. Oh, I want to go here. Hank, I wanted to stay in Houston, but I got traded to Phoenix, and I didn't want that. So get over it. This is the NBA. It's a business. Handle it.
Yeah, there are certain times, Rach, where we can have that conversation where, like, this is not right. JJ, you know, you are one of the smartest athletes out there. You know they don't care. So to give your sob story, like, we'll listen and we'll indulge you and you'll get a segment on the jump, but you know the truth is they don't care and you know that. No, because he's smart enough to know. JJ's smart enough to know that, like,
it's a business.
He's been a hired gun, 1-year contracts, making tons of money. Like, that's kind of like the formula that JJ has been a part of.
My whole thing is also, you had the opportunity a long time ago to be close to your family, but you chose not to, so.
Right. Well, look, and we were talking before the show, Robert, that at some point you said you finally decided it was time to retire because you wanted to watch, right, your son play sports. And
that's why I retired.
Be all of that stuff. Yeah. That's totally why you
retired.
Join
us at the jump.
Come ahead now, JJ.
And then re-retired again, and just so many retirements.
JJ's the reason why I started a podcast.
There you go.
It is.
Well, see, there you go.
I love JJ.
And you're the reason I started one.
There we go. Look at we're in this together. We're in this together.
This was very harsh for a minute, the vibe in here, and now it's just all love. There you go. JJ, I understand you, even if these two guys don't. Let's talk about a guy who did end up in Brooklyn. LaMarcus Aldridge recently spoke to the media and stated, quote, "I'm not here to be an all-star. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to bring the value, bring the things I'm good at, and try to help this team win." So, Robert, what do you think Aldridge can bring to the Nets? Obviously, they're already loaded. How much of a difference can he make?
It's going to be some points in the paint. You know, he's 35 years old. He's going to Brooklyn where everybody wants to go, like JR just said. But you go in here. You can get some inside points. We know you're one of those type of guys who can get 50 without shooting a three. So you will get him some inside presence when the three ball is not going. But with this team, will it ever not be going? You know?
Well, yeah, and LaMarcus didn't come here. You know, you can look at this. It doesn't take, a blind man can see that this roster and there's going to be less shots, less opportunities, less minutes to be played. This is the time to say these things, but ultimately when it really will come to fruition is when there's a bad matchup in a postseason, you hadn't played much in 2 games, your team is down 3-2, and everyone's looking for blame. That's when you start to see the true colors come out, not in the beginning in the honeymoon phase.
Well, yeah, but there's always, with acquisitions like this, I always say, don't look to the buyout market to be some panacea, right? There's a reason guys are on the buyout market. The Spurs, if you look at the numbers, were actually worse with LaMarcus on the floor. But
he didn't want to be there.
I was going to say, that being said, everyone's different in a different situation. The fit could be better for him. And all they need is that one game in a playoff series where, like, oh, it's the LaMarcus Aldridge game. And if he does that, he will have earned his money. All right, let's get to the League Pass game of the night. We are looking at Rockets Nets. We take, all the action around the league, but no surprise here with the producer's pick, James Harden facing his former team. The Rockets catching Harden at, I don't know, the worst time for them because the month of March, James Harden has posted averages of 29 points, 12 assists, 10 rebounds. Richard, what is the over-under for you on Harden dropping 40 on his old squad tonight?
I said under 40, but I'm giving a triple-double. I'm giving a triple-double in the win. But then again, you and I could probably go triple-double in a win versus the Houston Rockets.
Not me. Maybe you, not me.
Okay.
But I'm saying under 40, and I'm thinking some hard fouls, because it's a little animosity because not just the coaching staff, but the teammates were a little bit upset how he left.
But the good news is, and this is one thing that I can point to for all Rockets fans, at least you